My name is Adam House. I'm the host of the House of Bricks podcast and also CEO of the House of Bricks Business Advisory Group. And I had the honor of being on the show with the real Jason Duncan. And his podcast is called The Root of All Success. So if you want to learn about how to be successful, how to have the right mindset as an entrepreneur, this is a show you should definitely listen to. Jason has a great track record in business, but also coaching, speaking, and it's a show you have to listen to. I know I've tuned into multiple episodes, and I'll keep tuning in because it's a great show. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to the Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. A podcast that explores how the world's most powerful entrepreneurs unlocked success and how their stories can help you do the same. A successful educator turned entrepreneur, Jason has built multi-million-dollar businesses that have been featured in Inc. magazine and Entrepreneur magazine. His life's mission now is helping entrepreneurs live what he calls #the exit lifestyle. Introducing TEDx speaker, mastermind leader, author, entrepreneur, cigar aficionado, motorcycle enthusiast, and host of The Root of All Success, the real Jason Duncan. The real Jason Duncan.
Everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Root of All Success. I'm your host, the real Jason Duncan. You can call me JD. I've got a great guest for you today. His name is Adam House, and he's a serial entrepreneur, also has a background in executive roles, also as a professional athlete, which we're going to talk a little bit about that. And he's got an interesting background, and part of what I wanted to dig in today is something that it was given to me in his bio that we're going to dig into in just a minute, is he's driven by a set of core values. And I want to talk about those core values because it says here in this bio that it's about faith, family, and personal life. And so if you've been listening to my show for any amount of time, you know that that's also part of my core values and making sure that we as business owners are striving for success and balance to make sure our lives are balanced out. So I'm really interested to hear what Adam has to say, but he is helping business owners expedite growth and has a House of Bricks business advisory services, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. And if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you're not watching on YouTube, why don't you go watch on YouTube, man? That's where I consume most of my podcasts. Go to youtube.com/TheRealJasonDuncan and look at the playlist for The Root of All Success. Because if you're watching on YouTube, you see right behind his head, he's got this cool little brick wall, and it says House of Bricks. And we're going to find out what that means. Adam, welcome to the show, man.
It's an honor to be here, and thanks for having me on.
Well, we were talking pre-show. You're in Minnesota and I'm in Nashville. And today we have like 8 inches of snow on the ground. It was -2 or 3 degrees last night. And your weather up there is not a whole lot different. So we're trying to be like Minnesotans today, I suppose.
Yeah, it's not something you want to aspire for in the wintertime.
I've been to Minnesota. My son did a 50-day like backcountry canoe hiking trip in the Boundary Waters. And when was that? That was a few years ago. We flew up to Duluth and then drove up to, can't remember the name of the city, but drove really far north and went up there. And he did it, I guess he started in April and went through June. And yeah, it was really cold for him, during that time. But the lakes up there are absolutely beautiful. So you live in a beautiful part of the world, man. But welcome to the podcast. I'm here in Nashville. You're there in Minnesota. Tell me about these core values that I talked about in the opening, because I'm really interested to know how that guides you and what that means.
Yeah. So the first one obviously is my faith in God. So didn't have the best childhood, grew up in a broken home, everything that comes with that, but developed a relationship with God, and that's kind of been my centerpiece and guiding light. So my mom would always drag us to church on Sunday, and my dad was at the course gambling and drinking and everything that goes with that. So I got to see what both lifestyles had to offer, and not that I don't like to have a drink or play some golf and have fun, but what my really guiding light and compass is the consistency in my faith in God.
And how does that drive or help how do you figure that into your business world? How does that work?
Well, as an entrepreneur, life's a roller coaster, right? You're high, you're low, you're in between. There's turns at every corner, and you need a strong foundation. You need a cornerstone that can really serve as that grounding force when things aren't going your way. And not to say that I don't face fear. We all wake up every day with the choice to have faith or fear, and they're both made up belief systems, right? You can't see either one of them, but it's what mindset are you going to enter the workday with? How are you going to lead your family? And when I talk about leadership, leadership starts with leading yourself. So I always lead by example, and not only in the work, but in my home, try to lead myself in a way that inspires other people to want to be led by me.
Have you had a situation where your faith helped guide you through a pretty bad time? And the reason I ask is I just went through personally one of the worst times in my entire life. The last quarter of 2023 was the worst, and I know that my faith was a big part of being able to move through that, because I think you just said it's either faith or fear. You have to make your choice. So, do you have a story of times where, man, it was just the faith was the only thing you had to lean on to get you through a rough time?
Well, having started 5 businesses in 5 different industries, and being a father of 4 boys, and being married for 20 years, I don't think the podcast is long enough for me to be able to list out the times I've had to call on my faith. So everyone's situations are real to them, right? So there's people that have worse experiences than I've had, and people that haven't had as tough as I have. So uh, going into specifics in the business, I mean, I've had times where uh, we had an $80,000 payroll due on Friday and no money in the bank, and calling investors like, hey, we either got to close up or you got to pony up. So those kind of situations, laying in bed at night, trying to hide my laptop from my wife under the covers. She's like, hey, you work too much. I'm waiting for her to go to sleep, and I'm, checking how many sales we got for the day. So it's just it's a lifelong thing. It's not a specific event that I turn to my faith for. It's really just how I try to live my life every day.
So 20 years in marriage, 4 boys. How old are your boys? What are the age ranges?
We were talking about teenage drivers. So I've got a 17-year-old teenage driver, a 15-year-old with a permit, a 14-year-old, and a 10-year-old. So we're 3 teenagers and a 10-year-old. I think my 10-year-old may be the most mature. So
I tell you what, people who only have one kid, are they really parents? Like like do they really understand the difference between children and human beings? I only have 2, and they're significantly different, and you've got 4, so you even have a bigger sample size of knowing. And isn't it interesting how different those kids can be coming out of the same home, same factors, same environment? It's weird, isn't it?
yeah, when you have 2 kids, it's man-to-man coverage. After that, it's zone coverage, right? We're just trying to survive. So, when we had 2, it was like, you got this one, I got that one. Now it's like, you've got these 2, I've got these 2. So, God gives you enough grace for each kid you have. So we've been able to make it through. We've got 4 amazing boys, and been able to stay married for 20 years. My wife is the true saint, following me all over the country. We've moved, and get ready for this, 22 times in the 20 years that we've been married. So we've lived in Florida, Miami, New York, Detroit, Minnesota, South Dakota, and multiple moves within the state of Florida. So
Why did you move so much?
I don't like to sit still, number one. Number two, some lifestyle moves. When we first got married, we moved down to South Beach, and it was great. Our neighbors were Pharrell and Jimmy Buffett living in the continuum on South Beach, and that was great. We had courtside seats to the Miami Heat. I was the chaplain for the team, so that was a great experience. But then when you start having kids and raising them in South Beach, especially 4 boys, didn't really make sense. And then a lot of the other moves were business related. So exiting my technology company, I had to move to Boston, I played professional basketball, which we'll probably get to. I didn't take the normal course to play professional basketball, so you want to ask me about that. So we moved to Rochester, New York, moved to Detroit, but now we're settled here in Excelsior, Minnesota.
Nice. So let's talk about that. So you're chaplain for the Miami Heat, which is obviously a basketball team.
Yep.
The chaplain thing kind of naturally, I think, makes sense based on what you talked about with your faith being part of that. So, but you also played basketball. So how did you get into playing professional basketball?
Great question. I'm glad I told you to ask it. So
let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
As an entrepreneur, I know that you have to deal with sales on a regular basis. I mean, every entrepreneur does. And if you aren't paying attention to sales as an entrepreneur, you're not going to be an entrepreneur for very long. But I've got a sponsor of this show called Dub that helps you bring the personal back to sales. If you want to figure out how to improve content creation, improve client trust, improve your sales process, decrease the sales cycle, because we all know time kills deals. If you want to increase client bookings and increase conversions, you need to take a look at Dub. There's a special offer for Dub for listeners to The Root of All Success at therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. And that's DUBB. What Dub does, I've been using this for years. I'm a huge fan, and I'm so honored that they're our primary sponsor of the podcast. But they have helped over 60,000 businesses around the world communicate better, to make sales easier, to make sales more personal. And Dub is built for growing teams. I mean, you can set up video emails, you can set up custom onboarding, you can do admin reporting, anything you need around video and sales and automation. Dub is there. You can try Dub now. Your conversions to sales are waiting. All you got to do is go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. And there you're going to get 2 weeks for free to try Dub. Plus, you're going to get 50% off your first 2 months of Dub. You can't beat that. So go check it out. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dub.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
When I was 32 years old, I'd been a CEO since I was 19. So my first business in Detroit, as a high school student, I had the honor of working for Dan Gilbert, who's the founder of Rocket Mortgage, owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers. But at the time, his business only had 50 to 60 employees. So I was an intern for him and got to see him cast vision and test, fail, learn, grow, model. And I just fell in love with being an entrepreneur. It fed my competitive spirit. So I moved down to South Florida, started my first business with a couple $100, turned that into a multi-million-dollar business. I wish it was billions. We probably wouldn't be on this podcast, but millions. Sold that back in 2007. Then after that, I started a mobile technology company. And again, I'm a college dropout, no background in technology, but just a visionary, being able to build the right team around me and create enterprise value. So we started a mobile technology company. That was 18 months, idea to exit. So we sold for 30 times revenue to Akamai Technologies. That was the reason for us to move to Boston. And after I sold that company, my wife was like, hey, you've been an entrepreneur since you were 19. If you don't do something you love, you're going to regret it the rest of your life. And so I said, all right, great. I'll try to become a professional basketball player. And she was like, sure, whatever keeps you out of the house. Because at the time, I'm a CEO used to leading teams of 20, 30, 40 people. Well, when I would wake up, there was no one to lead and no one to delegate to. So I started delegating tasks to my wife. And fortunately, I'm a good athlete. I was able to duck as the pan flew by my head. And she was like, you need to get a job. I don't care if you become a barista at Starbucks. And I said, well, I'll go after basketball instead. So I hired a skills coach, a nutritional coach, strength coach, and I trained for 6 months and ended up getting invited to a combine in Dayton, Ohio. And I show up there. Okay. And I'm 32, I'm 6 feet tall. And you've got, I call them kids. These were guys coming out of mid-major colleges, 21, 22, 23 years old, played Europe, some semi-pro. And here comes this random white guy with no basketball resume. But the coach saw something in me that he liked, my character, leadership skills. I've always connected with athletes. And so he invited me to camp in Rochester, and I ended up making the team. So I called my wife. I said, hey, great news. We're moving to Rochester, or I made the team. And I said, the bad news is we're moving to Rochester, New York. So imagine this whole time she's remodeling this Victorian style 1920s house in Brookline, Massachusetts. And I'm calling her saying, we're moving to Rochester, New York in the dead of winter. So it's dark at 3:00 there, but ended up making the Rochester Razor Sharks professional basketball team. And some of the players on the team found out my entrepreneurial background, and word got out to the coach and the owner. And so the owner calls me one day and he said, Adam, practice is only 8 to 9:30. What are you doing the rest of the day? I said, well, I have, 3 young kids. We go to Starbucks, go to the park. He's like, what are you doing? Like, get in here, help me run the team. And so he made me CEO and co-owner of the team. So I was player, CEO, and co-owner for a year. So it was an amazing experience, lifelong dream. And it's really an encouragement to anyone out there, any of your listeners. And I've listened to some of your episodes. They're very inspirational, as people need to know God puts a dream in your heart for a reason. And not everyone's going to be a professional basketball player, but you never have to give up on your dreams.
So how long did you actually play on the team before you decided this is not going to happen?
Yeah. Well, so it was funny in the interview with the coach. He was like, Adam can't buy minutes from me. He was this old school Philly coach. I don't care if he's the owner, CEO, or commissioner of the league. Like, he's got to earn his minutes on the floor. So I ended up getting some playing time randomly, and then towards the end of the season, actually contributing. But I only did that for a year. After the year was up, and the 9-hour bus rides, okay, as a semi-pro basketball player, like, I'm in the back checking my stock portfolio, and the other guys on the team are watching Martin reruns. So I was like, an 8-hour trip from Rochester to Dayton. I was like, I don't know how long I can do this. So after that, I started my healthcare analytics business. So it was literally one of those napkin to reality type things. I went to lunch with a doctor. He had been practicing or in the medical field for 30 years, but had no idea about technology or how to build a team. So he literally took out a pen, drew on a napkin, this is what I want to do. And he said, Adam, can you help me make it happen? We shook hands, made it happen. And now that company's publicly traded on the NASDAQ.
Nice. So how many companies have you owned?
I've started 5, and this is now my 6th venture doing business advisory services. 3 of them I've had successful exits north of 10 million.
Nice. Well, congratulations. That's a pretty successful little run, and you're still a relatively young guy, man. You've made the best of what you've had available to you. So congrats. Plus, keeping a wife for 20 years, that's applaudable. Thank you for doing that. We all need to see that more. My wife and I, we're going to be celebrating 29 years this year. So that's, I love to see it when guys are married for a long time. Now, you've got the House of Bricks is kind of your thing. It's above your head on the wall behind you. What is that? What does that mean? Tell us all why House of Bricks. What does this mean?
Well, obviously it's a play off of my last name, so it feels like a God-given name. And all the other businesses that I've started, I really didn't have any emotional attachment to. I didn't have a background in direct marketing or healthcare or mobile technology or sales training. But now, after being an entrepreneur for 25 years, I want to inspire and empower other entrepreneurs and really give them what I call the blueprints of not how to not struggle, but how to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and realizing that every struggle is an opportunity for growth. People go to the gym every day. What are you doing in there? You're failing. You're lifting and your muscles are failing. And then after that, the growth happens. The same thing happens as an entrepreneur in business. So I am having to build some new muscles with this business because it's advisory and coaching. So I'm not the person in the game. So I'm giving them the advice, and it's a done with you model. So I'll work with you, I'll coach you, I'll hold you accountable, but I'm definitely not for everybody. If you aren't on board with discipline and accountability and structure, then I'm probably not the best fit for you.
So on your website, Adam House Senior SR, it says adamhousesr.com. Tell everybody what they're going to see when they get there. What is that about?
What you're going to see on there is our process of what we do to help you build a strong foundation in your business. So do you have a financial model? Is it up to date? Most entrepreneurs these days don't even write a business plan, but do you have a business plan? Do you have a map of where you want to go, where you are now, and how are you going to get there? What's your competitive advantage? What makes people want to choose you over your competition? And then most importantly, or a subset of that, is what's your go-to-market strategy? How are people going to find out about you? If you have the best product in the world, no one knows about it, then it really doesn't matter.
So you say on your website, one of the first things, it says brick by brick, and it says a business is either growing or dying. There's no middle ground. Do you really believe that, or are there businesses that are just kind of copacetic, everything's going okay, and they're all right? What do you really believe about that?
Well, I wholeheartedly believe it. Even if your business is flatline, someone else is gaining. So there's money out there. Money's exchanging hands every day, and it's either going to you or your competition. So even if you're staying steady, then that means your competition is growing. So in all reality, you are dying.
So when did you start this company? I guess the where you're actually doing advisory work. How long ago did you start that?
I started this summer, and we also launched the podcast called The House of Bricks. And we view bricks like experiences in life. You can either carry them with you and they weigh you down, or you can use every experience to build a strong foundation, which is going to position you for success.
And you work with, it says here on your website, you got Rocket Mortgage, Quicken Loans, V12 Group. I don't know how to say I don't know how to
Akamai.
say that.
Yeah, Akamai
Akamai. That's
Technology.
what it looks
So
like.
they're actually the company that bought my mobile technology company. They're publicly traded, $10 billion content delivery. Over probably 70% of the world's internet traffic goes through their servers. So they bought my company back in 2010.
So when you work with when you pull in a company, are you primarily working with the entrepreneur himself or herself, or are you working with the leadership team, or are you working with the company as a whole?
Our sweet spot is entrepreneurs. You have a business, you have clients, but you're often too busy working in the business to work on the business. So you typically wouldn't have a very well built out leadership team. You don't have a COO or a CFO, maybe some fractional support, but we come in and give you that expert advice because there are patterns in business and there's ways to optimize your time in the struggle zone. So we just, again, you can never avoid struggling. It's how do you get the most out of it? That's typically going to be our ideal, customer. Entrepreneurship and leadership can be very lonely. You're at the top. You don't want to show weakness to your team. So a safe environment to process what's going on in the business and helping you cast and create vision.
When you said that you've had several exit north of 10 million. How many did you say? You said it was several.
3. Yep.
So 3 exits north of 10 million. That's a feat that I think is probably less than 1% of entrepreneurs can ever claim. I don't know what the percentages are, but it's got to be really, really small for people to exit in an eight figure way. So most people don't get that experience, but you've been able to do that 3 times, and perhaps even more as you're working with your clients and building other businesses. I mean, you still got a long runway in front of you. What would you say is the one key that has allowed you to be successful in this? How did you unlock success where other people have failed?
I think well, I know it's consistency, right? It's not having the right decision all the time. It's just making decisions. Those decisions give you feedback, and then you can make better decisions later on down the road. So success is not an epiphany. It's really just doing the small things every day, consistently over time, that leads to success. And it's embracing learning opportunities. I don't use the F word, failure. So I tell my kids every day, whatever you're experiencing, you ask yourself, what did I learn? What can I learn? And, what am I learning? Right? Just it's the process. I know everyone talks about that, especially after Kobe Bryant passed away. He talked about the process, the journey, the preparation. The only caveat to that is you have to have a destination. So I see all these entrepreneurs on social media. Oh, I'm grinding. I got my coffee at 4 a.m. And then I ask them, like, where are you going? And they're like, I don't know. I'm just grinding. So you got to have a vision. And that's where we really help the entrepreneur, is help them cast vision and then hold them accountable to achieving it. But what's really led to my success is learning over and over again every day, doing the small things every day consistently over time. And then most importantly is building a great team around you. I know what I'm very good at, and I know what I'm not good at. So I've had the same partner in the last 3 businesses, Bill Joel. He's run public and private companies, but he's a great inside guy, operator, finance, technology, and I'm the visionary and entrepreneur. So just finding that person that complements the things that you're weak in.
Now, how do you personally define success?
Man, it is really fulfillment. I want to be fulfilled. And how do I get fulfilled? I lead myself, I lead my business, I lead my family. I've never been focused on the outcome. I've never set a business or started a business saying, oh, I want to become a millionaire. I just love to compete, love to win, and love to see other people succeed in the process with me. And that's really how I measure success.
So, by that definition of fulfillment, do you consider yourself to be a successful person?
I do. I'm fulfilled. There's challenges with it. Like I'm fulfilled, but not content. And that's what keeps me pushing on. My mom would always tell me, you can sleep when you're dead. So get up, go to school, get to work out, make the most of every opportunity. And that's how I measure success.
All right. So, if you had to narrow down your advice, I mean, you're an advisor, you're a coach. You've seen a lot. You've exited companies in 8 figure land, which most people don't get to do. But if you were going to advise one of the listeners to this show right now, he's sitting in his car, he's listening, or she's out out for a run, she's exercising. What would you say to that entrepreneur? It's like, this is the one piece of advice. You can't give 10 pieces, just one piece, and you can't say consistency because you already said that. But
Okay.
what would you say is the one piece of advice that you'd give to an entrepreneur to become successful?
I'm going to give you 1A and 1B because you said one. So 1A is to start. You have to start, and don't paralyze yourself with trying to start with the right decision. Just create action. Action gives us data, and it gets you in the game. You can't win if you're not in the game. And the subset of that, and they do tie together, is faith and fear coexist. And so wherever there's opportunity, there's going to be an opportunity to have faith in it, or there's going to be fear in stepping into it. So just realizing any amount of fear that you may have, there's an equal amount of faith that you can have and belief, not just faith from a religious standpoint, but belief in yourself, that you can achieve whatever it is that you want to do, but you got to get in the game and you got to have the right mindset.
I really like the idea of faith and fear coexisting. And I would like to spend our final few minutes on the show talking about that, because as we started the show, I asked you about your core values of faith, family, and your personal life driving who you are as an entrepreneur. And I think as people are listening to this, they can sense that your wife, being willing to move that many times. You said 22 times. Is that what you said? 22 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
You
told
and
me
I have a
though,
lot in common.
she told me if you move again, it's by yourself. So I think I've worn that one out after 22 times, but yeah, she's been my biggest fan for sure.
Well, you and I have a lot in common, because and we've been married, like I said, we're going on 29 years, and I believe we're close to 20 times of moving. So for different reasons, but I think what you're talking about here, having your wife, the personal life with the kids, all that stuff be a part of who you are as core values, your faith. Uh, I want to talk about this faith and fear thing, because I believe, and I want to see if you agree or disagree, and you feel free to disagree. It makes the show more interesting, by the way. but I believe that faith and fear are the same energy, just in opposite directions. You can have faith in something and believe it, and we're beyond, as you said a moment ago. This is beyond the religious connotation of what faith is, although both of us have that faith. But faith is the belief in an outcome that you want. It's having hope in something that you desire that you can't yet see. Fear is the exact same thing. Fear is, I don't want it to happen, but I see it, and I have the same energy in both directions. First of all, do you agree with that synopsis? And the second of all, how does that play into our lives as entrepreneurs? How do we manage faith and fear as business owners?
I do agree with you. How we manage it, how I manage it, is consistently developing my mindset. We're prone to be afraid. Like, it's a natural human instinct to have fear. And the only way to overcome that is mindset. And it's something that you have to do every day. And we're brainwashed by the media every day to be afraid. We see this accident, this trauma, this conspiracy. So I really focus on putting good things in my mind. I tell my kids garbage in, garbage out. So it's not a decision you just make, like, I'm going to have faith in it. You have to do consistent growth, investment in your growth every single day. But I see these people with these morning routines that are like an hour and a half long. And I'm just wondering, well, what if you put that time towards your job or your family? Would you be in a better space? But that's a whole nother podcast that I could do. Cause you see these guys, like Tony Robbins or some of these top people. Oh, I'm in the cold pool every day. I'm in the sauna. Well, they didn't have that when they started their first business. They were broke, living out of their car, cooking their meals over the sink, washing or on the stove, washing their dishes in the bathtub. So just the mindset, the morning routine thing is, I think, gotten a little out of control. I just have a 15-minute discipline. I develop myself. I invest in my faith, my family, and then, pray for my business, really. And that I'm in and out in 15 minutes and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, agree with that. The whole morning routine thing has gotten out of hand, man. It's crazy. At some point, people are just going to stop sleeping. They're just going to, go to the bedroom at 9 p.m. at the night and just say, well, okay, I'm up. And then just get on with the rest of the day, because you got to be at the 5 a.m. club or the 4 a.m. club, and then you got to go work out for 18 hours. And you got to make sure you drink water at a certain temperature. And,
Right.
It's crazy.
I agree.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your perspective, because I know that perspective is not shared by a lot of people. And I think people like you and me as coaches and advisors, I think this is the perspective that a lot of entrepreneurs need, because they see the Grant Cardones and the Tony Robbinses, and they see these people and they're talking about hustle and grind. They're talking about doing all these routines. They're talking about all this stuff and 7 sources of income, all that's fine and well, but we're dealing with entrepreneurs on the front end of this journey. They don't have that. They don't have the 7 sources. Just get one source and figure that out. Make that work. And then go to the second one, then the third one, the fourth one. And I think that today's Instagram gurus and TikTok heroes, they're setting a lot of entrepreneurs up for failure, and they're not doing it, to borrow your phrase, brick by brick. They're just trying to have the whole house all at once. They're not looking at, hey, we got to build the foundation, and then we got to put up the walls, and then we got to build the doorways and the windows. And I think that your perspective, Adam, is I'm hearing it loud and clear, and I hope the listeners are hearing it as well. I'm going to give you the opportunity to have the last word on the show today. So as we finish out, you can say anything, give advice. You can say, if you got something you want to promote, you want to talk about anything, this is your time to have the last word on the root of all success.
Well, I appreciate that. And again, thank you for having me on the show, and all your listeners out there that are still listening. I appreciate it. I haven't offended anyone enough yet, but I probably could if we stayed on longer. But look, there's different ways to connect with me. I have the House of Bricks podcast on YouTube. So I've featured NBA athletes, Super Bowl champions, NBA, NFL champions, top CEOs, keynote speakers. So that's a great way to hear other people's story. The House of Bricks is definitely not about Adam House. My wife has been telling me for 10 years, hey, get out there, tell your story. I really haven't wanted to. I've been more of a behind the scenes guy, but I really felt like I was doing people a disservice by not sharing my story, because there is inspiration in it, and we do learn a lot from other people. But the one piece of advice I have to give people, and I've already said it, is just start the process. Start, get in the game, pursue it, fail, test, fail, learn, grow. Really are the ways that you can be successful in your business. You can check out our website, which you mentioned earlier, adamhousesr.com. Reach out to me. We'll schedule a discovery call, see if I'm a fit for you, which again, I'm not a fit for everybody. So it's a hyper growth opportunity. If you're ready to grow and scale your business, I'm a great person to work with. And again, pulling from 25 years of real world experience, like you said, on social media. I just watch these guys. I mean, all they know how to do is make great videos that make you want to click. They don't know anything about business. So I've been in business longer than I haven't. I'm 45 years old, so had a long career as an entrepreneur, and love to work with people that are like-minded.
Adam, thanks for being on the show. I want to tell everybody to go check him out at adamhousesenior.com, and that's adamhousesr.com, adamhousesr.com. Also check him out on LinkedIn you can find him at Adam House Senior, so Adam House SR on LinkedIn, and go to YouTube and check out his podcast, The House of Bricks. So youtube.com/@theHouseOfBricks. It's been a pleasure to have Adam on the show. And as we finish the show today, I want to remind everybody what he's talking about, this faith and fear in entrepreneurship. You are going to have faith. You're going to have to believe in something you cannot see, but you know that it can happen. That's what entrepreneurship is about. It's about having faith, this vision of a preferred future that you want to lean into. You've got to exercise that faith. You cannot walk in fear. Fear is the same energy in the opposite direction. And I know from experience, I've had plenty of moments of fear, and fear is usually based in things that are never going to happen, likely never to happen at all. So don't get caught up in the energy going the wrong direction. Make sure, just like Adam House talked about today on the show, make sure that your faith is in the right direction. Don't let it move you towards fear. If you're interested in working with a coach like Adam or like me, there are plenty of us out there who can help you move through these times of fear. That's what the perspective of a coach is supposed to provide. I would think that Adam would be somebody that just like any good coach is going to say, look, I know you're looking at it, Mr. Entrepreneur, this way, but what you're not seeing are things that I can see because I'm not so involved in the business. That's the beauty of a business coach. So here's your opportunity. You can go do a discovery call with Adam at adamhousesr.com. So go to the bottom, go to his website. It's right there on the homepage, and you can get started with him, do a discovery call, see if that's something that works for you. And of course, you know me, I'm the real Jason Duncan. This is what I do too, although he and I are going to have different aims and visions for what we're going to try to accomplish with our customers and our clients. But there's no excuse for you to go through 2024 without a business coach, without an advisor. You have to do this. I know that when I hired my first business coach, that's when I went from just a business owner to a true entrepreneur, and then ultimately becoming a millionaire through my entrepreneurship. So I encourage you to do that. Please tune in again next week when I talk with yet another very successful entrepreneur about his or her journey to success. Until then, as always, I am the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.